Good morning, Boulder, from Boulder, Colorado. This is Waylon Lewis, and I'm trying to set this phone up on a little postal box, and it's a little crooked. I hope you're all well. Sorry this is a bit late today. I actually was up nice and early, before the sunrise when it was dark, and I was interviewing. I got up early so that I could interview a couple people for jobs at Elephant, and for editorial, social media, maybe some video, mainly social media. And this is why I want to talk about red flags. So when you interview someone for a business, it's almost impossible to tell who they are. I'm gonna close the door because it's kind of loud. So it's very hard to tell who they are. Everyone can say nice things, have a nice resume, have some nice references. It's impossible. So if you're just tuning in, give it a like or love. That'll help the video blow up outside of the algorithm. We're talking about mindfulness in relationships and in business today. And if you'd like to help that get out there, you can give it a like or a love. Only if so inspired. No need if not. And if you're new to Elephant, the best way to get our best stuff for free is elephantjournal.com/best. That is our online magazine. And if you are just tuning in, say where you're from. So Deep, say where you're from. Everyone say where you're from. It's always fun to see people tune in from all over the world. We have people from probably just about every country in the world so far. It's half of this isn't about me, it's about you, it's about community. When we bring the two halves together. So, Sharon is from Manchester, England, the old country. Kelly is from New Orleans. Nolans is one syllable. Nolans. Jill from Denver. Kim from the Netherlands, super cool. One of the places I would love to move. Kim van der Wisel. Tan Tamlet from nice jacket, thank you. Yeah, I'm into my old tweed jackets with the collar up in the fall. They keep your neck warm. Ashley is from Boulder. Someone else is from, someone tuned in. So yeah, I was interviewed. Wendy is talking about, I was interviewed the other day. And that video is now up on youtube.com/elephantjournal. So if you want to hear more about me, hopefully, normally I won't talk about me too much. Today we're going to talk about how to see when you're dating, when you're in a relationship, when you're hiring someone for a job, when you're meeting a new friend, how to see if they're a good human being. All of us are fundamentally good from the Buddhist point of view. All of us are deep down fundamentally good, but we can have clouds of neurosis that cloud up the blue, clear sky of our basic goodness, of our bodhicitta, our seed of awakening. And those clouds themselves are totally good and fine. Clouds produce rain. Clouds are not bad. But then if we buy into our neurosis completely, we can sort of completely black out our own connection with ourselves. So all of us who are watching this video probably have weak connections to our own self. One of the most important things anyone can do is to work on making friends with yourself. So read that blog called Maitri that I always talk about, and really it's hard work. It sounds like a spiritual mumbo jumbo, but making friends with yourself, making friends with myself, making friends with the parts of myself that I don't like, this is one of the hardest and most important things we can do starting today. We can continue for 18 years, for 20 years, for 30 years, for 40 years, for the rest of our life without ever making friends with ourselves. So we really have to start now. Start today, start right now. What don't you like about yourself? And look at that. I wish I could sing Michael Jackson right now. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. So you got to look the man in the mirror and really breathe through any of that feeling that it comes up. Maybe you've gone through trauma or rough things in your life. You need to look at that and stop suppressing it, stop pushing it down, because you're just burying your own basic goodness, your own connection with yourself. So we have a blog that's a beautiful article actually on Trungpa Rinpoche, who's a great Buddhist teacher, on basic goodness. If the editor on duty could put that in the comments. Hopefully the editor made it, since I just suddenly started this video without warning. So there's a concept called red flags in relationships. So you're dating, or maybe you hire someone, so this can apply to professional life or to personal life. You're dating, you hire someone, you're working together, and then there's some red flags of like, this looks suspicious. And there's also a concept called green flags, flags that go up that are good signs. So we're going to go over those, because those can be very, very tricky and misleading. Often someone could have an emotional outburst, or they could cry, or they could argue with you, and that could actually be a green flag. That could actually be healthy. That could actually be a good sign. So they can be subtle. They can be tricky. I'm going to go through some comments right now. Hello, say where you're from. That's very cool. Get this a little closer. Today I am dressed up as a dapper, hungover, homeless gentleman. That's a little inside joke for people who were here yesterday. Good morning from India, from Devdeep. Do check out, if you could put the YouTube video of my interview on the podcast in the comments, that would be great. Aaron from Regina, Canada. Delia from Pasadena. Okay, there's how to make friends with yourself. This is not mumbo jumbo. This is the Buddhist path, and it's tough work, Maitri, and you don't need to be Buddhist to practice. Jay Powers, Costa Rica. Two Jules Retreats. How cool. Let's go visit you. Sharon, great comment. I try to be more tolerant. It can be hard sometimes. Obviously, yeah. So that's why being tolerant or empathetic or patient with those whom we might disagree is actually a wonderful and powerful practice, because it is hard. Ozma from Paris. I also want to visit. Heather from St. Augustine, Florida. Tanya from Canada. Sophie, one of my best friends, my favorite humans. Sarah from Portland. Nuvera, is that a sheep on my coat? Yep, that's a sheep. It's a little sheepy. From Karachi, Pakistan. Welcome, Nuvera. Waylon, is there a Maitri book? Great question. So there's a whole bunch of books that touch on Maitri. Pema Chodron and Trungpa Rinpoche are the two Buddhist teachers who I would recommend on that particular subject. Sharon Salzberg is amazing. I have a blog called Best Classic Buddhist Books for Beginners, and we're all beginners. Beginner's mind, it's a good thing. Sort of a little inside joke from the Buddhists, that all of us are beginners, and that's a positive thing. If you're a beginner, then you can come from your basic goodness instead of getting, those quotes like by Mark Twain, that children kind of get it and then they're educated and made dumber. It's that kind of logic. So, Ozma, yeah, we have lots of the same people tune in, which is really fun. Panoyotis from Greece. And Mary from Mississippi, hello. Jenna from Grass Valley. All right, there's my best Buddhist books. And did you get my podcast link in there? Maybe you did. All righty, so let's get to our subject. So here's what's hard. So I just interviewed 3 people this morning. That's why I'm starting a little late for a job at Elephant. When you are looking to hire someone, you're talking about bringing someone into your life, into your workplace, paying them money, training them, dealing with them as a human being, both good and bad, happy and sad. So there's almost nothing more wonderful for a business than to get to work with good people. There's nothing more wonderful for a human being in a relationship than to get to fall in love with, or be in love with, or date, or have best friendships, or close family ties with good people. So great businesses, they're all founded on good people. Great relationships, of course, are founded on good connections. So how do we tell when we're first starting out if these are good human beings who have a fundamentally good outlook on life or not. Well, one of the major signs is a green flag. One of the major signs of a healthy human being is self-deprecation, is an ability to take life lightly, to make fun of themselves, to be able to laugh even at their own jokes, to be able to laugh at life, not to laugh at the weak or the underprivileged, not an aggressive kind of humor, but an ability, you know, those situations where everyone's stressed out and everyone's losing their stuff and someone can make a joke and kind of dissolve the whole thing. That is Buddhism right there. That is the present moment saying, we can lighten up. We can undermine our own ego. We can undermine our ego's tendency to take life as a solid, serious thing that is worth fighting to death over and going to war over and destroying one another for. There's this great moment in one of my favorite movies, Affair to Remember, with Cary Grant and Deborah Kerr, where she says, "Why is life so hard?" And Cary says, "I don't know, people." And that's so true. People can be so hard. So if you're kind of connecting with this, please give it a like or love. Help this video get out there. Let's get it up to 300 readers. That's my goal. Because if we're only reaching, say, 15,000 people, that's like our average low video, then maybe it's not really changing anything. And we're all here to change stuff together to create a mindful community. So, a sense of humor. So, you can see the opposite as a red flag. Has anyone here seen Stepford Wives or read it? I haven't read it, but I saw the sort of 70s, or I think it was 70s movie, maybe it was early 80s. And basically it's like this kind of present day sci-fi, almost like a Black Mirror or Twilight Zone show. And it's about, you see you guys are liking it and the viewership just went up almost to 300. That's how the algorithm basically works. So, we all get very Stepford wifey about our lives. We want everything to be perfect and Pinteresty. We want our kitchen to be perfect and have the perfect shade of yellow. And if we pick the wrong shade of yellow and the painter messes it up, then we get angry because it's not perfect. It's not what I wanted. I got the exact paint. I gave you the sample. Why? Now we have to redo the whole thing. And then suddenly you're turning into a little Putin. You're turning into a little tyrant, a little Mussolini about your paint color. If you can have a sense of humor in that moment and make fun of yourself, oh, God, it's, you know, I'm like a little Mussolini tyrant about my paint color, I'm ridiculous, then it's good for yourself. Your own stress, your own tightness can unclench. So that's what we practice in yoga, right? We get into tough positions. I could use some yoga right now. And we get into some tough positions, and then we have to breathe into them. And how good does that feel? Let's all try and do that. Take a little stretch, maybe a little warrior kind of thing, or a twist. Get into an area that's tight, and then breathe into it. That's exactly what we're talking about. It's that simple. So, if you want to be Stepford wifey about life, if you want everything to be perfect, and you have to have your like Ferrari with the perfect buck-colored seats, or your Tesla, and everything has to be perfect, then your life is going to go to shh, you know? Because life is not perfect. Life is full of mishap. Life is full of suffering. And the most attractive thing in a partner or in a colleague is to find someone who can roll with the punches. Someone who can basically have a positive outlook on life. Not positivity, which I am not a fan of, but a positive outlook on life. Meaning, whatever happens, let's say you get married to someone and you love them, and you're at the grocery store and your little baby decides to poop and you have to clean it up, and at the same time your 2-year-old runs off and you don't know where they are, and at the same time your 4-year-old decides to open a box of cereal and pour it into his mouth and he spills it all over the aisle, and at the same time you don't know where your 2-year-old is, and your partner is in the bathroom dealing with the poopy diaper, and you just can't do everything and you can't do it and everything's wrong and I'm already stressed out from, everything gets, at that moment you want to be with a partner who can be like, you know what? This is just ridiculous. Being a parent is so ridiculous. It's impossible to do a good job. And if they can kind of say that kind of thing with a smile or make fun, make a little joke, kind of pop the intensity of it, that's the kind of, it's easy to fall in love, right? But it's difficult to stay in love. And those are the moments where you stay in love with someone, where you appreciate them. So a sense of humor is my number one. I just interviewed 3 people for Elephant, and again, this applies, all this red flag, green flag BS applies equally to, people you're gonna work with and hire, where you're inviting them into your world and your life, and you're gonna pay them money and train and give up hours of your life training them. You're investing in someone. And that's a similar kind of analogous, but totally different to dating and relationships and love and partnership. So it applies to both, hopefully. So maybe in comments right now, let's make this interactive. What is a red flag or a green flag? So say your number one red flag and your number one green flag. A green flag is something you look for that is subtle. It should be subtle. It should be simple, but subtle. And a red flag should be subtle. So the number one red flag that I would mention right now, I'm sure there's many good ones, but the number one that comes to mind is that they can't ever blame themselves for anything. They can't ever take responsibility for something. So if I'm messing something up, here's one of the great Buddhist catchphrases of all time: my bad. Obviously, the Buddha said my bad first. My bad, the Buddha. It's a direct translation from the Pali. My bad is a wonderful thing to say, because the funny thing is you don't even have to fully mean it. You can kind of fake it till you make it. So basically, you messed up in my mind, and I messed up in your mind. This is how most arguments begin. Why is this going wrong? Why are you doing this? La 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 la, I'm yelling at you. And instead of taking any blame, you say, no, it wasn't me, it was you, or it was that person, or it was that person. You know the Far Side comic where the bear is like, the bear is pointing at the hunter in the sights, like, shoot that guy. So you just point away from yourself, anything but taking blame for yourself. What's so hard about taking blame, even if it's not your fault? You don't want to be a doormat, so let's put idiot compassion and drive all blames into one. If you want to read more about these in a more thoughtful, profound way than I can communicate, I'm just an idiot. But if you can put drive all blames into one and idiot compassion in the comments, that would be great. But so we're about to fight, and let's say it's really your fault in reality. What's to stop me from saying, hey, my bad, so let's fix the problem? So I don't even have to, it doesn't even have to really be my fault, and I don't even really have to mean it. I can just take some responsibility. And then we can stop pushing the hot potato of blame back and forth, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then suddenly, you're going to war with Troy, right? Or with Russia, or with Napoleon over this simple little insult. You see this all the time. We have a blog up right now, Jon Stewart's Twitter war with Donald Trump, that went pretty viral on Elephant, that I blogged up. If we could put that in the comments, that would be great. So Trump, whether you like him or not, I'm obviously a huge Trump fan. It has a real ability or inability to take any kind of blame or responsibility for anything. He loves to attack back. And it's actually one of his talents, is that he is kind of Teflon. Anything can happen, and he just will attack people for exactly what he does. The man has the highest rating in what's called the pants on fire thing, the fact checking. He lies something like some ridiculous percentage of the time, 79% of the time, and yet Hillary is the crooked one. He's broken all kinds of laws. I'm not trying to get into politics too much, but there's this ability for these kind of narcissistic kind of egotists to blame everyone except for themselves ever. And therefore you protect yourself from ever having to learn, or ever having to grow up, or ever having to feel anything. And I say this as a number one Trump fan. I'm I'm the world's biggest Trump fan. So if you want to grow up, if you want to get outside of your cocoon, which would be a great blog to put in the comments, Cocoon by Trump Rinpoche, If you want to grow up, if you want to learn from a relationship, if you want to learn to be a better boss or a better colleague, then you gotta take some blame, even if it's not really yours, and then the blame, the hot potato of blame is cooked, it's over. You can go eat it with some sour cream and whatever. And you can then just talk about the problem. So I'll relate to you a little story that I tell my staff all the time. So, and you could put the blog Shambhala Sun Summer Camp in the comments. So I blogged about, I used to participate in as a little kid and then help lead as a staff member and then as a sergeant in these Buddhist inspired summer camps called Shambhala Sun Summer Camp, and I recommend them to all 10 to 16-year-old children. They're fantastic. They're great. And so I was staffing it one year. I was a sergeant major, I think, and we had failed to get dinner ready on time for 100 little kids, right? So we go to the boss man, the founder guy, this guy Jim Lowry, who's a cranky, sweet, fun old timer, and he had co-founded this camp. And we all go up to him and we're like, it's not our fault. This happened, this happened, this happened, the hot dogs, blah, blah, blah. And we're just telling him the whole story about why dinner wasn't ready. And he said, guys, I don't care at all about your story. I don't care. You know what I care about? I care that dinner isn't ready for the children right now. Let's do it. Get it on the table. And that was such a profound lesson that you can just BS and waste all your energy and all your life. You can do it forever, for your entire life, blaming, just trying to keep blame away from ourselves instead of fixing the problem, which was the children are hungry. And then so we all got back in the kitchen, got our act together and got food out of the table. Probably didn't even take that long. And that's how easy life is when you stop fixating on blame. So you can just say, I apologize, my bad, I take the blame. And in the moment you do that, the real blame is apparent to anyone who is at all authentic or honest. If they're a narcissist, they will take advantage of that, and they will accept you're taking the blame, and they will blame you further. And that is a good red flag. So if they can't take any blame, when you take blame, you're not in a relationship. It's a one-way street to hell. All right, let's go through some comments, and then we can wrap up and meditate. Oh, Deb Deep, right, we're going to talk about alcoholism. We have some great blogs on alcoholism, drug addiction, smoking. We have great blogs on all three of those subjects. So alcoholism, drug addiction, and smoking. Editor, can you put some of those in the comments? Those are from people who have actually gone through it and know way more than me. I am not addicted to alcohol, drugs, or what was the other one? Smoking. I am addicted to speediness, to busyness. So we have a beautiful, beautiful blog called Busyness is Laziness. If you could put that in the comments. It's probably my favorite blog we've ever published without any hype. Aaron, children being inherently good reminds me of Carl Jung's theory of early child development. Hey Chelsea, thanks for tuning in. Mary just had a breakup and I realized ignored tons of red flags. Yeah, we tend to miss them. So we write off red flags and we write off green flags if we're interested in just seeing our own preconceptions, right? There's a little quote for Lindsay that could go with this. Sharon, is not lack of tolerance with regard to people's attitudes or views. Oh, it's not. That differ from mine. I struggle with other people's narrow-mindedness and hostile attitudes. It's difficult to, sorry, my mustache is itchy. It's difficult to display tolerance toward those people who are racist, narcissistic, and lacking in compassion. Well, I love your comment because it's very honest, but I would say that the entire world enslaved one another until recently, and slavery is actually incredibly prevalent even now, and prejudice is inherent, or is not inherent. It's not inherent, which is good news. It is prevalent even now. So we have to view folks who have racist attitudes or narcissistic attitudes or uncompassionate attitudes as workable and is changeable, and it's important to talk with them, not to attack them. It's important to actually try to open them up. And I'm not talking about Twitter or even maybe Facebook. Social media tends to make people just, stand on their soapboxes and shoot at one another. So if you're engaging with, recently on Twitter, I was retweeted or tweeted at by WikiLeaks. We have a big Twitter account. And after that, I was attacked by Trump fans for a solid week. And, I replied to a bunch of them, and I tried to be reasonable and present some facts. But if people are not interested in facts, they're just interested in being right, that is another red flag. So remember these. Let's write them down and not F up. All right, Sarah Levine just tuned in. Ariel, hello. Ashley, this is a profound one. Good job, Ashley. Red flag, someone who's not best friends with themselves. You just have a typo in you're one of our editors and you have a typo in your first sentence. Someone who is not best friends with themselves. Green flag, someone who adores who they are. I love that, Ashley. And despite the typo, you get a thumbs up. Megan, red flag, jealousy. Yeah, if you're looking, as Louis C.K. puts it, into someone else's bowl, jealousy doesn't have to just be romantic jealousy. It can be like, why is that guy or woman so successful? Why do they have a nice car? Why do they have a nice relationship? Why can't I have it? What's wrong with me? It's a lack of self-love, which is what Ashley touched on. So a lack of self-love directly connects with, or not even self-love, just being friends with yourself. You don't have to be in love with yourself. Oh my God, Waylon. Oh, it's so good to see you. Oh, I don't want to go to sleep because I can't see you. Maybe loving yourself is it's always good, but you don't have to be obsessed with yourself. You can just make friends with yourself, kind of middle gear. All right. Green flag, great communication. I love this. Megan, you're right on. You must be very dateable. So a green flag of great communication, I wrote a whole chapter on this in my Things I Would Like to Do With You book about mindful relationships, which the chapter was titled, I Want to Hear From You When You Are Confused. A lot of us are great communicators until things get uncomfortable and awkward and difficult, and we don't know how to talk about this hard thing, and then we bottle it up and we shut down, but we still blame you, and then it comes up like a month later, and then we go crazy. Does that make sense? We basically are bad about talking about things that are uncomfortable. When we bottle them up, we make a little list of things that we resent in our mind until the list gets so big that we explode, and then we list all the things to our poor loved one or colleague who just stares at you like you're nuts, because you are. All right, Hillary. Red flag for me, seeing negatively with everything, every mistake, every person. Yeah, if you're just Miss Negative Face or Mr. Negative Face, then, come on, right? That's an obvious one, but it's still a great one. Whitney, green flag, patience and ability to see more than one side of a situation. But that's tricky because a lot of so-called tolerant, compassionate people are very hateful toward those who are not compassionate or tolerant. So here in Boulder, Colorado, it's super liberal, and guess who isn't allowed to have a valid opinion about anything? White people. White people, particularly if they're male, are kind of almost second-class citizens in Boulder, Colorado. This is very ironic because what we're fighting against is the patriarchy and the oppression that white male people particularly have inflicted upon this poor planet for centuries, if not far longer. What we are fighting is not white people or male people or women or any race or ethnicity. What we are fighting is prejudice, prejudging. What we are fighting is hatred. What we are fighting is fighting. And that's why I don't like that word fighting. Aggression is the enemy. Aggression creates aggression. So let us create a just society that has room for all people, for conservatives, for liberals, for Republicans, for Democrats, for white folks, for not white folks, right? For Jews, for everyone, Islamic, all of it. The only people we don't have room for in society are hateful people, and those people As Abraham Lincoln says, I destroy my enemy when I make him my friend. So that's the way to stop war, basically, is to create understanding. So I have libertarian friends, I have conservative friends, I have Trump fan friends who attack me for when I share an article or whatever. And I always try to talk to them respectfully because, number one, they're human beings. Number two, maybe I can learn something because maybe I'm not right about everything. And number three, even if I disagree with them and maybe they are racist in some cases, just referring to one of these comments, maybe they can be a little less racist by talking with someone. And if I just block them or silo them or get them out of my life, that's what I call gated community spirituality, which is my spirituality. Has room for everything except for anything that I don't like. And that is not genuine spirituality. There's a little quote for Lindsay, for the editor. Number one red flag, quick and unreasonable temper. Well, you and I are not dating because I have a quick and unreasonable temper. You would not like me. I don't know about the temper thing. I've thought a lot about that. I have a big temper. It usually happens when I'm stressed out and claustrophobic and put upon and feeling disrespected or not listened to. And I know that my temper is not good. It's not helpful, I should say. It's not bad. Just like Abraham Lincoln's quote, the way to get rid of a temper is not to judge yourself harshly for having the temper, because then you just get more and more uptight. The way to get rid of a temper is to make friends with yourself and get yourself out of that situation. So my usual situation is if I'm really mad and I know the person can handle it, I will communicate very directly, instantly, and then I bear no resentments. It's done. It's like a little spring shower. It's intense and it's gone. But if I don't think the person can handle my temper and they might freak out, I just leave and walk around the block. So basically, I agree, a temper is not a fun thing to be around. And certainly if it's physical or physically abusive, that is not okay. And that person needs to not just be condemned, they need to have some sort of therapy. We need to try and fix ourselves, not just condemn ourselves. So that's an intense subject. Whew! All right. Christy, my red flag, criticism. I think criticism can be wonderful. I criticize your comment and the spelling of it. That said, criticism, I think what you're saying is like a kind of critical negative attitude. And yeah, that is a red flag. But you can criticize with love. Constructive criticism is a green flag for me. It's there's this great Buddhist quote that says, your spouse, your partner, your best friend, those are the only people in life who care about you enough to give you honest feedback with love. And if you don't get honest feedback with love, then you're just surrounding yourself with yes men. And if you just surround yourself with yes men, then you're back in that cocoon, which is in comments, if you want to read about the cocoon. So it's a tricky one. So be open to a little criticism. But it has to be constructive, right? Not just negative. Because that, Christy, you're completely correct. And then green flag acceptance, I think same thing, but the opposite. I think acceptance can be good, but if I do something horrible, I don't want people to accept that. I want them to give me constructive criticism, and then I can learn from it. And they can be critical with acceptance, with love. Red flag, they don't look you in the eyes. From Robin, I agree. That can be a good one. But that can also be they're shy, or they're introverted, or they're whatever. And some people look you in the eyes like a little bit too much. So who knows? This stuff is tricky. Jill, I am skeptical of anyone that feels the need to sell themselves. I appreciate people who ask a lot of questions rather than going directly to asserting their opinions. I love that. If you're asking questions, you're open, you're curious, you're open, you're curious. If you're just asserting your opinions, you're basically the patriarchy in action. You're just a big dick, just trying to fill the space. Sorry to say the dick word, but it used to be a Very common first name, so just pretend that's what I'm talking about. Ving, red flag, doesn't respectfully communicate. Love that. You have to be able to communicate respectfully, whether it's positive or negative feedback. Nuvera, red flag, too much negativity, narcissism. Green flag is definitely humor and modesty. I don't know about modesty, but yeah. I think from a Buddhist point of view, you should be modest about what you're, you should just be honest more than modest. So if you're good at something, you can say, I'm good at this. You can have a sense of humor about it. You know how Stephen Colbert, his old show, not his new one, but he used to have this ridiculous sense of ego, but he kind of made fun of it. That's sort of more Buddhist-y, is just kind of, Marianne Williamson has a great quote about this. When I was young, I was bold, I was loud, I was crazy. Not crazy, but I was like a kid, you know, and I was told to shut up by my Buddhist community constantly. And that's not necessarily super helpful. So Marianne Williamson has this profound quote. She says, let your light shine. When you let your light shine, you give other people permission to let their talent and their inner self shine out. So can you put that Marianne Williamson blog in the comments, please? Editor, dear editor. Who is the editor on duty? Who is it? There's the Drive All Blames into One blog, and it's written by my mama, so please read it. She's a wonderful Buddhist teacher. She's a wonderful Buddhist teacher. And there's Idiot Compassion, which is a profound blog about how often when we help others, it's actually not helpful for them or for us. Bop, bop. Alrighty. There's a lot of good comments here. Peter. Here's a little constructive criticism from Peter Groverman. I take 5 minutes to eat my lunch and relax, and boom, this garbage is on my news feed. Well, Peter, obviously, no one's forcing you to watch. And number 2, I would recommend, just from a Buddhist point of view, as a friend, that it's really awesome to not multitask when you're taking a break and eating lunch. So just enjoy the hell out of your lunch and where you are without scrolling on your phone. That's just my recommendation. Number 3, I recommend hanging up on this garbage, because this is just crap. All right. Woo. Vig, sometimes say, I'm sorry that you feel that way, even if not at all. If you're not at fault. Right, so if you're talking about the blame thing, you can say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I feel like that's a little bit, what do you call it, passive aggressive. I feel like you can just take it on. And you don't actually have to take it on, you can just take it on. But each to her own. There's Shambhala Sun Summer Camp, my blog about it. Bop, bop. Barbara, yeah, that's why we also have to read Idiot Compassion. If we're going to read about the Buddhist notion of driving all blames into oneself, we need to also read about Idiot Compassion so that we don't become a doormat for anyone. There's my favorite blog ever, Busyness is Laziness. It's actually not business is laziness. It's busyness is laziness. Claudine, I loved your blog on Busyness is Laziness. Yeah, it's by Reggie Ray, not by me, but thank you. I'll take the credit. I knew I did this type of avoidance busyness, but when I stopped and read the blog, it has helped and changed me for the better. I honestly think that's our best blog we've ever put up. It's a talk by the wonderful Buddhist teacher who I did get to grow up with, and he was my meditation instructor and mentor. Reggie Ray. Douglas Mercado. It's tough for some people to own their crap. Amen. And it can be tough for me to own my crap. Why would you want to own your crap? You just want to get rid of it, right? But if you can actually just own it, then you can kind of stop pushing it out on your world. And some people wonder why they get a lot of negative feedback, and they're just pushing their own shit out on the world constantly. And then of course they're going to get some shit back. I am working on taking the blame to diffuse the situation and move on. Nice. Well, read Drive All Blames into One, Douglas. It's by my mama. Courtney. Yes, that's the whole point of this entire conversation. is truly incredible when you can reflect on and realize the red flags and bad behaviors that you brought to the table, that we brought to the table in past relationships. That's profound. Alrighty, I'm going to skip to the bottom, unless there's any other insults from my friend Peter. Those I will definitely read. Great comment from Kim Jordan Sutton. Lots of great comments from many of you about the red flags and green flags. So Mary Celeste Stepbro, great question. I need to understand why I keep winding up in the same type of relationships. So, number one, you're already realizing that the problem might not be all them. It might be us. It might be that we are looking for the wrong kind of thing. That we actually can control what we invite into our lives relationship-wise. So that's already profound that you're already on that tip. One-sided communication, that's the kind of relationship you end up in. Men that don't appreciate me, I always wind up being the only one who is honest, who is more affectionate. Mary, you first read my tree. You need to just use that honesty and affection on yourself. And then you will naturally begin to attract and connect with and date those who are honest and affectionate with themselves and with you. And even if that sounds too easy, it kind of is. There's a blog on smoking, and there's a blog on drug addiction. Eliska would like to talk about Redford. Do people want to see Redford? Claudine, you explained it so much better than I did a long time ago when I experienced hippie fascists. Yeah, hippie liberal types can be crazy aggressive. On a time in Northern California, it was like jumbo shrimp, made no sense. Let me grab Redford. More tea? I'm still doing a video. You wanna wave? Redford! Someone wanted to see Redford, and whenever the video is getting kind of weak, I pull in the relief picture, Redford. Not that the video is necessarily weak, you guys are all rocking it, but Redford's pretty popular. Alright. Come here, Boober. Oh, you got it. Up. Oh. Can people see him? Alrighty. Amber, green, showing kindness for people and creatures that can do nothing for them. Red. Red flag, not red Ford. We're talking about red flags. Ooh, yes. And an inability to forgive themselves and others. I love that, Amber. Great comment. Okay, folks, shall we meditate for a second and then get the hell out of here and on to our day? Peter's got shit to do. All right, let's take a good posture. Like Redford. If you need to yawn, that's okay. Okay, so take a good posture. Root your sit bones in your feet. Connect your head with the heavens above. Open up your heart and then relax. Find your breath in and out. Dedicate yourself and your day to being a benefit to yourself and to others, right? Right? Stop just obsessing about food and bones and walks and getting to pee on everything. There's more to life, Redford. I don't know what else, but there must be something more. All right, so find your breath. In and out, just breathe. Normal breath, in and out. Eyes are open, we're not trying to shut anything out. With this practice, your hands are flat on your thighs. If you have a thought or a distraction, you're thinking about lunch or dinner or work or an argument, or you have Sia in your head, just label it thinking. I'm thinking. And come back to your breath. And the breath is basically a stand-in, a crutch for the present moment. Redford wants to go down. Okay. thinking. Return your attention to your breath lightly. Like we talked about a sense of humor, you don't have to be too fixated on the breath in a tight way. Just lightly surfing up and down on the breath. Breathe in and out. Think about the red flags and green flags in your life, both people you work with and hire, in relationships and friendships, family. And then as you find yourself starting to get caught up in those thoughts, label it thinking and return simply to the present moment from which all insight, natural, true insight arises. When you're done, when you feel like you're generally present with your breath, you can end by bowing to one another. Thank you so much for joining. We do this every Monday through Friday, 5 days a week at 9 a.m. or more likely 9:30 or 9:45 MST. Please, everyone, thank the editor. I'm not sure who they were. And remember that, yeah, as one of the viewers just pointed out, we also have our own red flags and our own green flags. So we need to take an honest look at ourselves, at the man in the mirror, at the woman in the mirror. The second I hang up, you can get the get notifications button right in the middle of the screen. If you'd like to support independent mindful media and community, you can get elephantjournal.com/best. That's our online magazine. And I'll give you a last look at Redford. Here's our benches that are made out of trucks. There's our fridge. There's our staff bike. There's our cart for shipping my books. And there's Redford waiting to have some fun. Alrighty, see you everyone, and thank you so much.